All right. Speaking of, we were talking about the game last night, Penn State. Speaking of Pennsylvania, man, we were talking about pressure in playoffs with Lamar Jackson as well last hour. And we were having the conversation of going into the playoffs, who does it matter the most to? What team, organization is under the most pressure? And I started to think, like, man, it might be the state of Pennsylvania. I think it's more one team than the other, but the state of Pennsylvania, you got one in each conference. I'm going to start, Rob. Tell me if you feel me with the Eagles, why they may be under a lot of pressure in this postseason. One, Nick Sirianni is coaching for his life, as strange as that is, when he's the guy who went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago and is a guy who his team had a bunch of success, won a bunch of games this year. So you would say, why is this guy? Well, as Rob G knows, there's been a bunch of reports by insiders and execs, quite anonymous, who's saying they still believe he's coaching for his job. If he were to lose and the wild card, he may be out of his job despite having a great season on paper.
But it would have to. You'd have to see how they lost, too. You know what I mean? Like, if some player made some horrendous mistake or something, you know what I mean? Like,
I get that's what we talk about with James Franklin.
Yeah.
I get that. The only difference I'll say with this one is with James Franklin, we don't necessarily there have been a little inklings about he could be on the hot seat. But with Nick Sirianni, this was a screaming that he was on the hot seat. Everybody knew that. And when you have issues with the star quarterback last season, that's so much so they had to sit down and figure this thing out, and then we started to have turmoil on the inside where A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts. By the way, these are all the things to me that added a little pressure on the Eagles. Yeah, You've been to the Super Bowl. You didn't win it. You want to get back, as you should. You want to get back.
But look at Doug Peterson, won a Super Bowl. He was out of there 2 years later.
Yep,
so it doesn't, like, normally you win a Super Bowl, you know that's going to pad you for 5, 6, 7 years.
I don't know, man. Coaches
right?
in sports be getting kicked out easy.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like,
Frank Vogel, to your point. Frank Vogel thinking, I'm about to be the man. I'm about to be the next Pat Riley.
Right.
And
I just won a championship. Right.
So that's the crazy thing about sports. Is like
And that's why I do understand why, if you're Nick Sirianni, like, there's a chance that you could be out because this is the turnover that we see now. Getting to the Super Bowl isn't good enough. If you lose or whatever, they're looking for somebody else. If you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem. Yeah, that's how it is.
So I also add pressure to the Eagles for this. You had a team that you got all these receivers. They're not getting the ball enough. They're complaining they're not getting the ball enough. You have A.J. Brown having issues with Jalen Hurts. They seem to have, acted as if they worked it out, but who knows if they really did. You went to the Super Bowl. We all heralded you as a team to be like, all right, it's going to be one of those teams. And then you had not a great year last year. I think how long the Saquon has a historic year. Here's a huge one for me. You chose to not sit him down to make a playoff push, and if you don't, you wasted a chance for him to break a record.
No, that's not going to be against him.
For me, it was you can have both. I can have my cake, as we have cake here, and eat it too. I can get the rushing record and go try to win a Super Bowl.
But if he got hurt, then
I understand that.
Okay, so that's why you can't do it. If he goes, because you couldn't move up in your position, right, in the postseason. Mm-hmm. Let's be honest. If he played and Saquon got hurt, would he keep his job?
No,
okay.
Well, unless they all agreed, obviously. Like if the ownership ever said we're going to go for it,
people would say
but if
that
he just showed like, no, we're going for
that's
it.
That's the dumbest thing that ever happened.
But I understand that. We talked about the inherent dangers of football, but I felt like you had an opportunity to make the season even more special. You win it. You never know. Once you get in the tournament, you never know.
And
if you were to win it, you got the award. He broke the record. I think that would be awesome, but they chose not to.
Because that's not important to the fans. It's about winning the championship. It really is. No one's going to sit around and go, oh, man, we won the Super Bowl, but it would have been better if Saquon also.
It would have just added to the allure.
No, but that's not the conversation. You just be euphoric that you won a Super Bowl.
Oh, without a doubt. But I'm saying you had a chance to do both. So I think that would also be a reason why this sucked that we lost if I were the Eagles. That, man, we had at least could have ran for that, and we didn't. So I think it's going to be a lot of pressure. And other teams also.
I don't think that factors in. I
also think a lot of people view them as the Lions' nemesis. Like, that's the team that can beat the Lions. And so a lot of people are like, wait till y'all play the Eagles. Wait till y'all play the Eagles. A lot of people say, wait till the Lions play the Eagles. So I think it'll be just a disappointing team. And then the other one would be, your thoughts on the Eagles, and then I'll kind of go to the next one. Are the Eagles under pressure to get back to the Super Bowl?
I just think that they're not the number one seed, right? Okay, so if they don't, or they were to lose to the Lions in a good game, I don't think it would be the end of the world, okay, because they're not. It's not like they're number one seed and they won every game and then they lost in the playoffs.
Right. Mine is more the turmoil. I think the turmoil that might ensue.
But that, I mean, that can all be a part. It's a part of it. There's a lot of turmoil in teams behind the scenes. A lot of times you don't hear about it. I mean, I've talked to plenty of players and talking about like what went on during those championship years, and they'd say chaos.
Mm-hmm.
You wouldn't believe.
Oh, for sure. I mean, you got players punching
what's
each other,
going on and fights.
But winning cures it all.
Right, and then so you know it doesn't come out or nobody talks about it. But there's pressure on the Eagles. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, and the only other one, I don't think this is why I say the Eagles more than this one I'm going to name here. But to me, again, it's similar in the more of the turmoil. What are we going to do? How do we make sense of this? When I look at the Pittsburgh Steelers, because I remember saying this, to me, about 6-7 weeks ago, if you recall, I said, well, shoot, I mean, what's the excuse now? Like, historically, it's been, man, Ben Roethlisberger's too old now. Man, what we going to win with Mitch Trubisky? We can't do that. Man, Mason Rudolph, get out of here. Remember, he got that meme where he's laid out on the ground looking crazy, helmet off. So now it's like you got a Super Bowl winning quarterback. He's the guy you wanted. You chose to set down Justin Fields. You got the defense at the time that's balling. You got a running game that was having a lot of success. Najee Harris has had 1,000+ yards multiple years in a row. So to me, I was like, Mike Tomlin hadn't won a playoff game in 8 years. What's the excuse this year? You know what I mean? You've got the quarterback you guys wanted. You got the defense. You got a running game. What's up? Like, why isn't this working? And I think that's a fair question. Again, I'm not saying Mike Tomlin has to go. He's had a heck of a career.
I mean, you can start
like, all right, Mike, why are we elevating?
Right. What happened here? And if they lose to the Ravens, they're not expected to beat the Ravens. They're almost double digits underdogs, but because the Ravens have been playing great and they're on a 4-game skid.
Well,
right?
Like, why? That's what I'm saying. What went wrong that we all of a sudden lost 4 in a row, and now we're double digit against a team, the Ravens, who historically Lamar Jackson never really did good against us. Now he done beat us once already, might beat us in the playoffs, double digit underdogs. Like, what the heck what went wrong? Like, what changed 5 weeks ago?
Because when they were winning the 6 in a row, they probably weren't that good. Like they weren't 6 games in a row good, and there aren't 4 games in a row bad. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like, they were over their skis. You know that after when Russell Wilson took over,
then he ended the season 6-5. Like
they were rolling. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But they still finished 10-7, and going into the year, that's not that far off. Did you really think they were a 12-win team?
No, the only issue I'll have with that is I was talking to Rob G about it. I would rather have then been 10-7 with Justin Fields, even if it was 9-8.
Yeah, but you're still living on that.
No. I'm serious. No, hear me out. I'm being dead serious. You know me. I have no problem admitting when I was wrong. I still stand on I'd rather have done that to know what Justin Fields like. Okay, I see what I have in him, because you kind of knew the ceiling with Russell Wilson. Like, I know where he is.
But the difference was, and this is what you can't deny, is that offense got way better when Russell Wilson got in there.
But it didn't ultimately.
No, it did.
But it didn't. I'm saying he had like a 3-4 week run.
No, it was more than that. It was when they were winning those 6 games or whatever, 5 or 6 in a row. Go look at the passes stretching the field. It was a different team.
I agree that he is a dink or a bomb. Yeah. Like, I agree with that. He is one of the greatest deep ball passers of all time.
I just.
But you get what I'm saying? Like, I'd rather go, all right, I got this kid who's, 20, call it 25-ish.
Yeah, but they've seen him, and if they really believe, seriously, it makes no sense to go to the older guy if you have a 25-year-old stud who's a long-term answer to your problem. He would have still been the quarterback at 4-2, but they knew they had a bet.
That's why I would be disappointed that the season ended. Like, everything you're saying, I get, but that's why I would be disappointed. Like, we did this thinking we would be getting more, we would be able to achieve more, when we probably would have did the same thing.
If it flipped the other way and he lost some games at the end and you finished 10-7, you'd be like, why?
Being Justin Fields?
Yeah, Justin Fields, you'd be like, what are we doing here?
Or I would be like, all right, he's finally got a year under his belt in a real organization that knows what they're doing. We might be good next year. You know what I mean? That's my thing. I still stand on that. Like, they made the decision they wanted to. Obviously, you called that. But my thought was, I'd rather have this thing that was working, progressing. And obviously, he's not throwing the deep ball like Russell Wilson does.